All right, and we are back. Just did a stream last night. I think I'm going to start settling in on a schedule here soon, and we'll get it posted out to everybody. But I wanted to get another stream out and some more content out because I am getting ready to go on what is probably about a 10-day road trip down to Florida for business. And I'll have my laptop, and I'm planning on doing at least a little bit of content, but I don't know how well connections are going to be and how much I'm going to be able to stream to all of you. On that note, real quick, before we take off into this, I am going to show some really cool things that we're doing with Tailscale while we're there. I've got a Tailscale subnet router set up as part of the Home Lab. If you've been watching any of the Home Lab stuff, you've seen the Tail SR VM kind of bouncing around, and we haven't talked much about it. But if you haven't looked at Tailscale, go ahead and check it out. Really cool product, and we'll be showing how that works. Already messed with it. I'm able to be on LTE locally here, and I can get back into the full Home Lab and everything remotely, which is pretty slick. You just have to be really careful what you do, especially on the networking side, because if I break trunks, break routing, things like that, I can't fix it. And it'll take the house down for everybody else who's here. All that said, today we're going to do a pretty quick one, I think, and we are going to focus on what it looks like to set up DNS in the lab. And as with a lot of this stuff, there are more robust, more heavy-duty ways to do what I'm doing. For a long time, I looked for like good DNS solutions for labs way back in the day. And you can do things like webmin to manage standard bind and things like that. But Pihole's out there, and Pihole is a really quick, easy, and nice functionality to add to your home. They're probably not what you're going to do in an enterprise, but the concepts are the same as far as primary and secondary DNS servers on your local domain, as far as load balancing, as far as how the servers are going to go out to the internet and talk to the next tier of domain servers, all of that stuff. So we're not going to get real crazy into how DNS works and all the intricacies of it, but what we are going to do is we're going to set up a pair of demo Pi-hole servers. We're going to show the basics of how those work. And then what we're going to do is we are going to then set them up behind a load balancer. And once we do that, we're going to just show the basics of how it works. I'm not going to be able to go too deep into it because I can't change the DNS on my local machine and stuff. But we'll mess around with it a little bit at the end. All right, with that said, coming up to the service catalog, you can already see we have Pi-hole servers here. If you do look at this, and we'll pull up a quick command line here, and if we do a clear, and then we do a NS lookup, and we do, let's say, google.com, what you're going to do is you're going to see my top one is 192.168.1.2. Let's then say that we want to look up the DNS for the dashboard up here. We're going to do NS lookup, and we're going to do -2.newmexicoa.staticnet.com. And if you look, it actually is going to return that address as 192.168.1.24, which is the IP for this. So what we're doing here, and you can't really see it, but Pi-hole 1 has the address of 192.168.1.3, Pi-hole 2 has 1.4. And then the virtual IP address for this is 1.2. So what I can do is I can point to the Kemp Loadbalancer, and we'll show a graphic for that in a second. And then it load balances. It decides based on an algorithm, in this case round robin. It just says first goes here, second goes here, third goes here. It just balances them. But based on different algorithms, you can say based on load, based on latency, you can do all sorts of cool stuff. We're just doing it. Every other one bounces around. So I can take Pi-hole 1 down, and let's just do that because I set this cool little thing up the other day. I can just shut Pi-hole 1 down, and then I can still resolve. And if you look, Pi-hole 1's down. Let's just actually go into the Kemp real quick. I'm kind of showing you guys what the end state is for this. Actually, I got this wrong. There we go. So if you look right now in the Kemp, and we look at the real server status, it's actually saying that's up, which is interesting to me because we just told it we wanted to quit serving DNS on that. So maybe it's not doing what I think it's doing here. So we'll ignore that. But anyways, this is the end state. You want to have a virtual interface. You want to have two servers. You want to have them working. And then that means that we can do things like this. Where we can actually have two different hosts, PVE and PVE1 and PVE2. That PVE1 hosts, let me find it, Pihole 2, and PVE2 hosts Pihole 1. And if one of those hosts goes down, as long as it's not the host with the Kemp on it, that's a whole other thing, then things are still fine as far as local DNS goes. So we're not going to mess around with this too much right now. Let's go ahead and jump over to what the diagram should look like. So what our goal is here, like I said, we're going to have the Kemp VIP. These are the IP addresses we're going to use. We're just going to use stuff on the VLAN 1, 192.168.1.0 network that we've been talking about because I already have a Kemp set up there. So a local machine is going to make a DNS request. It's going to hit this virtual IP, and then that virtual IP is going to send the request down to these, and depending on which one it goes to, it's going to serve it back. The thing that we don't show here, though, that we're all going to set up is we're going to set up synchronization between these hosts. And we'll do that, and we'll show that. And we're going to do that with another piece of software that some folks have wrote for the Piholes called Gravity. And Gravity Sync will actually take our database between these devices, keep them synced up. So we only have to make changes on one of these hosts. We can use Pi1 or PyDemo1 as the primary DNS server. We make changes there and they'll synchronize across the Pi2. That way, depending on the timeline that you do it in, these will always be synced and you can change the timelines. But we're going to show this whole process today. This is a lot of command line. Hopefully the 1080p stream will pick that up really well for us, but we're going to go ahead and jump into that. So with that note, I have already created these two hosts. These are plain Jane Ubuntu hosts. And if we look at them, we can show IPA on that host, and we can show that it is 192.168.1.31, like we set for Pi1, and IPA, and show 32 for that. And then we'll go do the Kemp stuff here in a little bit. That host is set up. There's no setup to do on it, but there is config to do to make the DNS service work here in a little bit. And first time I set this up, I got a couple things wrong. I'll probably get a couple things wrong again. But again, it's the whole point of this. We're learning together. We see the troubleshooting steps. We kind of figure it out from there. So with that said, I am going to bring up just the basic let's get started with Pi-hole documentation here. I'm going to bring it up on the screen just real quick. If you go to docs.pi-hole.net or you just Google Pi-hole, you'll end up coming up with all this. And I'm not going to run through all of these components, but I just wanted to bring it up. This is a really simple config, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do. So I am going to go into this, and I'm just going to copy the whole command. And it says one-step automated install. They've made it simple for us. So I'm going to copy that one command. I'm going to sudo it. I'm going to paste into here. I'm going to try to properly authenticate. And we're getting a couple errors here. And I'm not sure why we're getting that. So when we copy that, for some reason, put brackets in, we'll just redo that. So it's the same command, just without the odd configuration components. So script called with non-root privileges. The file requires elevated privileges to install and run. Please check the runner. Should be good there. We're going to do the same thing on the Pi demo. We're going to do, just copy this again off the screen. I'm going to sudo and paste. Okay. There you go. We're going to auth. You can see on both of these, the installer will transfer your device into a network-wide blocker. We say OK there. We're going to go through all these same configs. I just want to show how easy and quick this is to get this set up. Say OK to that. Static IP is needed. We already have a static. We set that up. I will say the one thing that's a little bit different on these hosts is I usually go set up DNS in the host when I set it up. So it's making local DNS calls because we also have an apt cache for our Ubuntu host, so it'll cache things. So when you're doing a lot of setups, you're saving internet bandwidth and just doing things faster. But in this case, I didn't want any DNS set up on this. I want these boxes to be clean, static IPs. I did give them DNS of 1111 and 1112 for Cloudflare's DNS, just so they had a way to get to the internet and do all the initial stuff, and we'll go from there. But I didn't want any local DNS stuff here to set up. So we're going to do continue. I am going to tell it that I want to use Cloudflare's DNS as my upstream. We're not going to get into all that. Pihole, yes, we want it to do the blocking. Yes, we want to install the admin interface. And yes, we want to include all the components for that. Enable query logging. We're going to show everything. You could do things. You could do it anonymous if you're doing this on a small business. All right, as I rip my cable out of my headset, we could do this on a small business network where you don't want it. We could hide the domains. We could hide the domains and the clients, but you could still see the general type of traffic. But in this case, I just want to see everything. I like data, and this is what I do at the house, so let's just go here. So we're going to continue, and it's going to go ahead and get set up. We're going to go do all the same things really quick right here on the other one. All right, so now we're doing all the installs. It's creating all the networking components. It's setting up PHP. It's setting up the database on the back end, all of that stuff. So there's not a whole lot to talk about on this side. We're going to show it working in a minute. The good news is once both of these are up, the next steps are pretty quick. And to a point, we're only going to really do major configuration on one. And I want to show that the synchronization is working between 1 and 2 when we go and do the synchronization components with Gravity Sync. And with Gravity Sync, we're also going to have to create a sudo user, theoretically. I'm going to skip that step right now. It's easy enough to go and add another admin user with sudo access. I can do it all with root just to show you guys quick and dirty today, and that's what we're going to do. All right, so here we go. So it's telling us that we're /admin is our login. It's telling us our initial password for this host, which they set is going to be capital DN0. I think it's a 0. No, it's an O. And then we're going to go lowercase n2, capital W, lowercase u and c. All right, let's mark all that. And then it's telling us it's ready. That's on 1. Taking notes as we go here. You should always have a notebook or Post-its. They're all over my desk. So on 2, we're going to have capital B, lowercase t, underscore H, capital Q, capital K, capital N, and lowercase d. All right, so we've got our initial passwords here. Let's go ahead and then jump from these. I'm just going to, if you're not done so already, you should set up static. We've already done this. All right, so let's just go and look at these hosts then. So we're going to go into our primary. we're going to open up a new website, and we're going to do http://192, sorry, /hack 192.168.1.31, and we're going to do /admin, and there it is. Came right up. And we're going to do DNON2WUC, and we're in on that host. We're going to do the same thing on host 2 just so we can get all this set up. We're going to do http://192.168.1.32/admin. We're into there. Password on that is BT_HQKND, and we're in there. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do, I am going to go into settings, and I am going to find where we change the password, because I want this to be set to a password that I am comfortable with and that I'm going to remember and all that stuff, but I am not remembering it. So under groups, it's not. Tools. Gravity. And again, this is the fun of watching me do this, is because you get to see me not remember where things are. And this is just kind of the nature of doing tech also, as far as I'm concerned. You do things every once in a while and things work for a long time. And then without proper documentation and things that you can remember, then you figure out, or you lose track of where they are. All right, we're going to cheat real quick. We're going to run over to another website, and we're going to do change password for Pihole. Web interface password needs to be reset via command line. All right, well, apparently we do this via command line. All right, so let's go do that real quick on both of these. So the command is going to be, and I probably did this before, so we're just going to click OK there. We're back into Pihole 1. So we are going to do Pihole-A-P, and you know what? I'm just going to leave it blank for this one. And then I'm going to do this, and it'd be Pihole-A-P. By the way, you would never leave this blank in a real production environment or even in my lab. I'm just doing this because it's quick and dirty, and as soon as this is all done, we're going to go ahead and burn all these down. This is all just for demo, so we're going to make this as clean as possible. All right, so from the SSH side, these are both done until we do the gravity sync. So we'll clear those out. We are going to go down to these again. We're going to go to dashboard. We're going to go to dashboard. All right, so both of these are up. What you're not seeing is you're not seeing services go through these because we don't have a host set up on them right now. Let me see what I have really quick, because I might have something that I can set up really quick to put traffic through these. I'm trying to remember which one of these is going to be the easiest, because I don't have something with a great GUI. That said, hey, let's just go ahead and try Kali. I know the Kali VM worked at one point. So we're going to start it. We'll run it in the background. But what we want to do is we want to show this working a little bit, and especially we want to show the load balancing going across. I should have thought that part through, but I didn't. Worst case, I'll grab my laptop. We'll do it off screen while we go live, because my Windows laptop's easy to do this stuff on. And it's sitting on the other side of the room. All right. So with that said, the next part is to set up Gravity. Or no, the next part is actually set up local DNS. So if we go and we look at DNS, there's nothing in here. So what we can do is we can go and we can do something like this. We can, right now, Homer is set at -2 because Homer, the old dashboard site, was -1. So let's do this. Let's go into Pi-hole 1. Let's go into Tools, Settings, DNS. Our upstream servers are already set to Cloudflare, as you can see. We're only allowing local requests. There's a bunch of different things you can do here. We're going to permit all origins because we have done some things on the network where that's broken things before. We're not using DNSSEC and all that right now. There's a lot of configuration we can do in here, but again, my goal is quick and dirty, show how to set this up, show how useful it is. We're not doing DHCP out of this. You could. It has its own DNS or DHCP server. Web interface, themes, all that. Teleport is your backup, which we'll do real quick before we actually do the update to the synchronization. Privacy level shows everything. This is all the components it asks you in the beginning. Again, we can go in and we can say, we're just serving DNS. We don't really care what people are looking at. But that's not how I have it set up right now. So we're going to go ahead and go into local DNS, like I said, and we're going to do DNS records. And what I'm going to do here is I am going to look up, I'm going to do -1.newmexicoway.staticnat.com. And we are going to tell it that that address is, because if we go down here, and we did this earlier, if we look up -2, it's 192.168.124. So we're just going to grab that. And again, in the current DNS, that is set up to be -2, as you can see right here, -2. So when I do this new one, I want to show that we're actually resolving for -1 against the same host. And then we're going to add that, and there you are, it's set up. There's a couple things about this I don't like. Like you can't easily go in here and change anything. You can delete, that's all you can do. I love it at Pi-hole added like an update feature and stuff like that, so if you make a mistake. So let's say I go in here and I type dsh1.nw or nmw, or let's try nwm.staticnat.com. Let's just get it all wrong and then post that in and we add it. Well, then I look and I'm like, oh crap, I fat fingered all that. So instead of just being able to go in here and like modify that, I have to delete it, or I have to go into a CLI config file. Neither here nor there. So we're just going to delete the broken one. So the DSH one, it's gone. DNS is up and running. And then if we look over here, we go look at local DNS. Here, let's go. Well, let's just do this. Local DNS, it's not there. We can refresh that page all we want. That's not coming up because this is on PyDemo 2. PyDemo 1 is where we did the config. So now we're going to get in and we're going to show, let's do a couple things here. One, let's see, can we get into our Kali instance? We can. Let's see if I can change this real quick. I am not a big Kali user, so those of you who are watching me fumble around here, I'm sorry about that. I just have it up so I can test some networking stuff later. Is there a quick way to go into Kali and change the networking? I'm sure there is. Yep, advanced network configuration. Let's go there. Wired connection. IP4 settings, search domain, let's change it to nmw.staticnat.com. If you look, I already had it for the old DNS server, so let's do this. Let's do 192.168.1.31, and we can show DNS working here real quick. And we're gonna 192.168, we're gonna save. And we're gonna do here, we're gonna do a dig. Nope, we're gonna do a dig. And if you look, it comes up and it tells us that it's still on 3, which is not what I wanted. So let's try this again. IPv4 192.168.1.31. New Mexico Way. Require IP4 addressing. Save. Do I need to do a reset or something on this? I don't think so. 192 to 168 dot 192. I am having a heck of a time here. Ping 190. All right, 192, 168.1.31. Just make sure we can reach it. Everything's good. Yep, it is. So let's do a dig again. Yeah, and it is not changing my DNS server. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and wonder if I disable the networking. And again, for any of you Kali or Linux guys out there who are looking at this and shaking your head, I apologize. So we're going to jump back in here. I'm going to do a dig again. Hey, and there's 31. All right, cool. So we're in. So then if we do a dig again, which is the same as an NS lookup in Windows, effectively, if we go and we look up -1.2.static.newmexicoway.staticnat.com, it's not going to return anything. It doesn't know what that is. It sees static NAT. It knows it's hosted by Cloudflare, but it doesn't know the local one. So if we do a dig for -1.staticnat.com, oh, and I got that wrong. Got to add the New Mexico Way, newmexicoway.staticnat.com. If you look, it should have returned -1.staticnat.com. And it's not returning it for us. I'm not sure why. Let's go up to a browser and see what we get. Firefox is coming up. I just want to show you guys this is actually working. So if we do -1.newmexicoway.staticnat.com. Yeah, and we're not seeing it. Port 75, let's try the port and see if that helps us. Probably will. 75, 75. Yeah, it's still not resolving this. And I might just have to grab the Windows laptop because it might be something goofy with this Kali box that I'm just not aware of. So if I do IPA, yeah, I'm not quite sure what the problem is there. So we'll just go ahead and bin this for now. I'm going to be right back. And I'm going to apologize to you guys that you're not going to be able to see the laptop screen. But I'm popping open my laptop here. And then once it's up, I will just change its DNS over to the new DNS server, and we'll show it working. And as we get ready to do that, and as my laptop comes up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to then take us over to how to set up Gravity. So this is the project that we're going to use right here to do the synchronization. And this is on GitHub under VM stand. You can also just do a Gravity sync for Pihole, and it'll come up online and it'll get you there. This is a pretty straightforward piece of software, but it's also really powerful for what it does. Because like it says, it synchronizes local DNS, local CNAMEs, static DHCP assignments. This is great if you're starting to move forward to do more high availability. And this is also, like I said, more what you do in an enterprise. You'd have DHCP servers. And there's different ways to handle that. I've been in environments where people absolutely say you only manually configure the two standalone. I've been in environments like Sauce Labs where we automated all of the DNS configuration, both local and upstream for our data centers. and automation handled all the duplication and stuff. But here, this is just an easy way in the home lab to say, hey, we have redundant servers and they're going to stay in sync. So from there, what we're going to do, I've already reviewed the system requirements. They're not super heavy. They just tell you you've got to have these components. You have to be able to either root or sudo in. It tells you the versions that are supported. I'm on Ubuntu 22 on this. I can tell you it's worked fine. But again, if you're wanting to be super concerned about what the actual supported components are, then you need to stick to these versions. And then we're going to get ready to do the install for Gravity. Before we do that, I want to show Pi-hole working. So laptop's up. We're coming up in the config for it. I am going to go to edit DNS manually, and we're going to change that to 31. We're going to do save. That should have worked. We're going to look at -1.staticnet.com on port 7575. We're going to do NS lookup, make sure we've got the right. Still coming from the wrong address. Let's look at this again. So DNS edit for 31. Some reason didn't save it. Maybe I clicked out too quick. So let's do an NS lookup again. There we go. All right. Then we're going to go to -1. And it cannot get to the site for some reason. So if we do a lookup for -1.newmexicoway.staticnet.com, it tells me it doesn't exist. So let's go back to our local. And if we go up here and we go to our dashboard, all right, at least you can see it working now. So if you look here, we've had 188 total queries from 3 clients. Those clients have come from the host here that I've been on, the Proxmox server, and now they're coming from my laptop. So if we go up to the dashboard on the Pi-hole, we don't see, on Pi-hole 2, we don't see that. So let me change this again. I just, again, want to show everybody that DNS is at least functioning. So we're going to go back into the config, and we're going to take it from 31 to 32. 32 has no config, so we're definitely not going to get a response on that host now, but that's not my primary concern right now. There it is. And we're going to do a lookup for -1.newmexicoway.staticnet.com. And then if we look here, you can see the queries hit in real time. So we've already taken queries against both these hosts. DNS is up. It's doing its job on Pi-hole 1 and on Pi-hole 2 as far as the demo units go. All right. So DNS is up and working. I've clearly got some other issue. We'll try to troubleshoot that in a minute. Let's go look at our domains. Domain to be added. I think we found the problem. So if we look up newmexicoway.staticnet.com, add to whitelist. That may or may not be the issue. Not doing any conditional forwarding. We're permitting all origins, which that didn't look like that was saved. Let's go here. The one thing that the synchronization doesn't do, the synchronization does not actually take your config with it. So we're going to permit all origins. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back up to domains. I'm going to whitelist newmexicoway.staticnat.com. If we have to, we can go look at the functional one and see what we're doing. So let's just hit this one more time on this. Again, sorry that this isn't like as smooth as I kind of wanted, but this is the whole point of doing this stuff. I say it again and again. We're going to troubleshoot. We're going to run into bumps. And I kind of want that. I don't want this to be like this super clean tutorial, and at the end you're just like, oh, how did that work? I'd rather you see kind of the holes in the process and then how we work around them. All right, so back on the laptop, I'm using 192.168.1.31 again, and we're going to do a lookup for -1.newmexicoway.staticnat.com. Yeah, it's just not resolving that. So there is still something from the local DNS perspective. New Mexico. Oh, remember how I said when you get things wrong? So let's do -1.newmexicoway.staticnat.com. And then if we go look at the IP address again, it is this guy, .24. So I had a typo in it. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Even when I was trying to show the point, it didn't work out. And there it is. It resolved. It resolved perfectly. Let's see if we can get it to resolve real quick in Kali now that we've got this up and done. That way you guys can see it on screen. So we're going to go here. We're going to go to our Kali Linux. There we go. We're going to go to -1.staticnat.com. Let's get rid of the S because it's not a secure site. And there it is. So now you get to see it work. It wasn't a Kali issue. It was just I can't type. And then we can log in to this homer. But if you look, it's to -1.staticnat.com 7575. That is all being hosted right off of this guy. And then you see the total queries. We can even, and if you look, you can see what the queries are. Chrome, blah, 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 push services, -1. But there's all the -1, the frequencies, the hits, all that good stuff. All right, we're done with that. So let's now jump over to doing the actual config on getting the Galaxy sync up. Did I say that right? Galaxy? I don't think I did. It is... There those are. Gravity, not Galaxy, Gravity. All right, so now we've got the Gravity stuff ready to go. And on the Gravity sync, we're going to do the install. And again, I'll show you just like we did on the Pihole stuff. There is a script that just executes and does all of the hard work for you. Now you can go in and look at what that is. There's other ways you can probably deploy it from source. There's no reason to. We're just going to copy this. We're going to then go into SSH on demo 1, which we're right there, Pi-hole demo 1. We're just going to paste this. We are going to auth. And now it's asking for the remote Pi-hole address. So we're on node 1, which is 31. Node 2 is 32. So we're going to put it in as 192.168.1.32. That's the remote host. The user on that host is going to be me because I have an account already on there. And if you look, it says the Pi-hole host name, not the web interface user. It's not asking for the web interface that we're in. It wants the host, and that's what we're giving it. It's generating all the new things. We're going to tell it yes to agree to that fingerprint. I'm going to give it my password for that host. And then if we look here, it comes through all of this stuff, and it says SSH key is registered. It's detected the other Pi-hole installation. It is doing all this stuff. Configuration has been completed successfully. Once Gravity Sync has been installed on your other node, your next step will be to push all of the data from the currently authoritative Pi-hole. The current Pihole, the one I'm on, Pihole 1, is the authoritative one. So we're going to go over here, and let me show you real quick. Like, nothing's changed at this point. So if we go back to Pihole host, and we look at, say, local DNS record, I still have my -1. I go to this guy, and I look at DNS records. There's nothing here right now. Nothing's changed other than some software on the back end to say, hey, let's create a connection between these guys with the SSH so we can communicate and tunnel data back and forth. So we're going to go back to here. We're going to go to Pihole 2. I still have that in my buffer for the setup. We're going to run that. We're going to give it our sudo password. In production, again, I use a dedicated sudo user for this. But here I'm just I can't type all of a sudden at all. We're just going to use the default sudo account that I have set up for this host right now for the demo. I cannot type. There we go. All right, so now it's asking for the remote. In this case, since we're on the secondary, it's the IP address of the first one, which is 31. So 192.168.1.31. User, it's me again, because that's what we have set up. We're going to tell it yes to the account. Fat fingered that again. There we go. And all done. So we have Gravity up on both sides. We have Gravity Sync running on both sides. And then when we go and we look, again, one more time at these hosts before we actually do the first push and sync, we go to this first one. We'll do a refresh. -1, New Mexico Way. That's there. You go to the DNS records on 2. Nothing. So from there, we're going to do exactly what it says. We're going to do the first motion, which is Gravity Sync push. The Gravity Sync authors made this so easy. So we are just going to paste that command. It's going to look at the two databases. I should have done a backup on these first. I forgot to mention that. It's just a single button push. It downloads your backup for later. But again, this is a non-production instance, not a big deal. So it completed the push. So what it did, it pushed from 1 to 2. And we're going to go look at those now. So if we go back to this and we look at Pihole 1, Pihole 1 has -1.newmexicoway.staticnet.com. And then we go to Pihole 2 and we do a refresh on it. There's -1.staticnet.com. Here's the cool thing. So if we go back to Kali, as I reach for my laptop, but we have Kali up and running now, we're going to go into Kali. We are going to close that. We are going to go back into our network config. And now that these are synced, we're going to change. All right. Again, me not being the smartest when it comes to this. So there's advanced network configuration. We currently have it on. We're going to go to IPv4 settings. We're going to go from 31 to 32. That's what we're going to do. And then I've got this search function set up wrong too, New Mexico Way. And this is just so we could do short naming if we wanted. And then we're going to save this to 32, not 332. And then we're going to go into the config and we're going to disconnect. So it resets the interface. Then we're going to turn it back on and we should be able to do a dig here. And we see that we're now on 32. And if we do a lookup, we should now be using the secondary. And if we look up for dash, we do a dig for -1.static.newmexicoway.staticnet.com. And we should get a response to 24 right there. And then if we go back over to the actual Pihole and we look at the dashboard for it and we look at what it's resolving, you'll look that it's actually doing resolution for -1.staticnet.com. And It's double pending because of the other mistake I made. But anyways, doesn't matter. But the point to this is we have now set up synchronization between these two hosts that we make a change on PyDemo1. And we can do that right now. So let's just do test.newmexicoway.staticnat. And I'm not looking for this to be accurate to anyway. So let's just go to our gateway 192.168.1.1. I don't care that this is anything. I just want to show the synchronization on it one more time. So we do an add. It adds it. Do a refresh. It's there. 2 entries. We go back to local DNS here. We do DNS names. We do a refresh. None of this is automatic right now. That's the next step. So then I'm going to go back into, not PowerShell, I'm going to go back into MOBA where we have our SSH session. And we are going to do a gravity sync push. It is going to do the same synchronization process that it did originally. It's checking everything. It is going to come back in a minute and tell us it's good or bad. And there you go, 14 seconds. It's done the synchronization. We go back to our Pi-holes. We do a refresh on that screen, and there it is, test. So we're good to go. At this point, we've set up the authoritative sync and all that good stuff to it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go finish this by doing the automation component, which is the final part, if you guys remember about this, that it came up. And it actually told us if that completes successfully, you can automate at a regular interval on both of your sync peers. So now what we do is we grab this gravity sync auto command, which again, we could just type natively. Let's just do that. So let's clear this. I'm going to clear. We're going to do gravity sync auto. All right. And there you go. It is now set up gravity sync, so it is going to automatically on both hosts check for synchronization. We're going to do gravity sync auto. Now this is set it and forget it. As far as Pi-hole goes, Pi-hole's working, gravity sync's working. You make a change on 1, it's going to sync to 2. I'm pretty sure with the sync set up that way, 2 will sync to 1. It's not a pure authoritative component, but that's it. We are how long into this stream? We are 48 minutes into this stream. I have been super verbose, but we have DNS set up in our home lab. Working, functioning, synchronized, all that stuff. Let's take, hopefully, less than 15 more minutes and set this up as HA. So in order for it to be quick, you already have to have your Kemp Loadbalancer set up. That we can mess with in another one. The other thing is all of these things that we're doing, other people have gone into like deep configuration of them and how to set them up on other blog posts. I'm going to reference blogs and vlogs and YouTube channels that I've used to kind of figure some of this stuff out to set up the home lab component. I know a lot of the enterprise stuff, but I've learned all these tools from other people. So we will reference those at other points and maybe eventually even get them in show notes. So if we go in here and we look at, okay, we're going to our Pi-holes. We're just going to close these Pi-holes now. They don't have value to us for what we're doing. What does have value for us is the Kemp. And going back to the service catalog through Homer that we've talked about, I can just go in here and I can click on Kemp Loadbalancer. Boom, there we are. And then in here, I just use my credentials. I'm in, and we're into the Kemp. So once we're into the Kemp, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Virtual Services. We're going to do Add New. And again, I might get a little bit of this wrong, but we already have defined that we want our load balancing IP address to be 192.168.1.30. I like hierarchical things. So if your DNS is going to be 31 and 32, then I want 30 to be the top level of that that's load balancing off of it, if I can. It's not always possible, but in this case, that's kind of how I like to run things. So we're going to type, let's do something here real quick. This is actually interesting. And it's something that the gentleman who I saw set up the load balancer the first time did. Let's start pinging 192.168.1.31. If you're not familiar with load balancing and virtual addresses and stuff, why does that work? That should not work. Oh, Wrong address. I want to go to 30. 31 is the primary Pi-hole. We go to 30 though, it's not responding to anything because there's nothing there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into here. We're going to do 192.168.1.30. We're going to tell it we want to talk on port 53 and on UDP because that's DNS. And then we're going to call this DNS demo is going to be the service that we tell it. And then we're going to add this virtual service. And then we should be able to go back here. 192.168. Activate or deactivate the service. Standard options. We're not forcing L4. Persistence mode, we're not going to mess with right now. We should theoretically be responding here. And maybe it's because we don't have the real servers in yet. So let's go ahead and add new real servers. And for the real servers, they're the pies that we just set up. So 192.168.1.31, port 53. We're going to do direct return. We don't really want to NAT this. We just want it to be, we don't care about any of the other. Add, okay. Let's go look back at this. Our service is still unreachable. Why? So let's add this. Did I mess this up? So let's go to view and modify services. Yeah, I messed it up. That's why. So we're going to delete this. Man, I am fat fingering all over the place. But again, here for it. So we're going to do 192.168.1.30 is what we're going to do. The port is going to be 53. And we're going to use UDP. And this is going to be DNS demo. And we're going to add this virtual service. Now let's go look at our pings. There we go. When you get it right and all the numbers match what they're supposed to. So there's no server behind this right now other than the Kemp Loadbalancer. The Kemp Loadbalancer is sitting in VLAN 1, which is that 192.168.1 network. And if it was set up with VLAN tagging and all that other stuff, it could actually do things for the 10 network and stuff as well, but we don't have that set up right now. So anyways, there's no real server behind this other than the Kemp. It's a virtual IP. It's now responding. It would actually also respond to DNS now, but it wouldn't return anything. So we're going to undo force L4. We're going to tell it persistence mode is source IP. You know, let's just kill persistence. I don't want to get too technical. It's going to work. Round robin is what we want. We also have weighted round robin, least connections. There's all sorts of different things we can do here. We're just going to say every other one bounces between the two. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do and add a real server. And in that case, it is going to be 192.168.1.31. We're not going to change anything here other than direct return. We're going to add this. We're going to add another real server. We're going to add 192.168.1.32. We're going to make it a direct return as well. We're going to add this as a real server. And then we're going to go look. We're going to view and modify the services. And if you look here, 192.168.1.30 on 53 is up on LDP. It's an L7. It's up. So we're good to go. So then what we're going to do is we're going to then go into our Kali box. And instead of pointing directly at the DNS servers, we are going to go into the wired connection. We're going to change this from 32. Remember before we tested with 31 and 32. Now we're going to test with 30, which is the virtual IP on the Kemp, and we're going to save it. We're then going to disconnect this and then reconnect it. And then if we do a clear here, so we keep this clean, and we do a dig, we should see that we're now responding to 192.168.1.30 for DNS. We should then be able to do a dig for -1.staticnat.com. Nope. And I got it wrong, didn't I? -1.newmexicoway.staticnet.com. Enter. And if you look, we responded to it. And if we go into a web browser, we should be able to go to -1.newmexicoway. And we're just going to let it autocomplete there because that works. And it's going to resolve. And just to show that it's resolving, and so it resolves a bunch of times. And so we can see traffic going back and forth between these. We are going to go to this, and we're going to run this multiple times. There's probably a quicker way to do this, but I'm just going to run it multiple times. We're going to minimize that. We're going to reload the Kemp. I'm going to go to home for that. We can see that there are a total of 2 services up. We can see the total of 4 virtual hosts. And then if we go into statistics, we should see real-time statistics against the real servers. And you can see total connections that have gone through these. And these are the ones that we just did. And then if we go back into these, so if we do 192.168.1.31, maybe 192.168.1.32. Just get rid of the DNS record side and just do admin. Yeah, there's the admin side. Let's get rid of the records. There it came up. So if we look at this, we're now these are increasing, and they're increasing based on where the hosts are trying to go and when. So if we look at this one, there's only one host, because I've shut the laptop off. There's only one host that can even see any of this, and that's the Kali box. So if we look at this, nothing else should really be talking. And Kali might be incrementing these slowly, but if we go down here and we look at the hits for -1, they're 14 and 63. So let's hit the Kali box again. So we have, what did I say, 63 and 14. We should now be able to see these load balance against that using the Kali box. So then if we hit that, hit that, hit that, and hit that, that should be 2 or 3 extras per. Let's then go back to these, and we're going to refresh the screen. And we went from 63 on Pi 1 to 66. And if we look at Pi 2, we went from 14 to 16, which is dead on what we would have expected. So we are load balancing. That stuff's working. So let's recap, and then we're going to wrap this up right around an hour. I promised I didn't want to go longer than that, and I meant it. So what we did, we built Pi 1, we built Pi 2 using the basic Pihole setup scripts on their web page. We had a Kemp Load Balancer already configured. We set up synchronization between the 2 Pis using, and I'm going to get the name wrong again, so we're going to pull it up, using Gravity Sync. So Gravity Sync between these 2 sets these 2 up so they're synchronizing their DNS configurations between each other, not host configurations, just DNS. We then set a virtual IP on the Kemp, and then we pointed a client at the virtual IP on the Kemp, and we see that one request goes to 31, then the next request goes to 32. So in an hour, we've gone from having no DNS to having not only DNS and black holing for things like advertising networks and content you don't want, because you can set up specific blocks in Pi-hole. That's not the scope of this, but a more controlled DNS on your local network. We've set it up so it's synchronous, so you can actually do local host names. We've set it up so it's redundant with the Kemp, especially once we get to a 3-node cluster where the Kemp lives on one and the DNS nodes live on others. And we've shown it all working. So in 1 hour and 34 seconds, we've gone from 0 to hero on your home lab network. And this is a really straightforward way. Again, you saw me screw some things up. You saw me work through them. And I think that's the benefit of it. There are a lot of other great demos if you're just wanting that clean, super produced walk through it. And we'll post some of those guys later because they're how I've got to some of this stuff. With that, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for showing up again. We will get this downloaded and processed and up on YouTube. My streams aren't going to happen quite as often as they have been over the next probably 10 to 15 days as I travel, but I'm going to be putting some more content up along the way. Hopefully some streams, if not some YouTube, some blog on staticnat.com, and we'll go from there. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.